What do you do when you have no motivation to drum? 1, I'm sorry to hear that. 2, that is normal, especially if you have chronic depression. I have chronic depression. It like comes and goes in terms of like waves of motivation and lack of motivation. It's okay to take a break as long as it's not like I'm going to take a month off or like 6 months off. So like if you need to take like a weekend off just to refresh your batteries, totally cool. It's not going to like ruin your gains. But for motivation, one of the things that I'll sometimes do is I'll just review stuff. Like instead of like what I'm about to play where I'm not good at it, if I'm like, oh, I really don't want to play this today. All right, cool. I'll play some stuff that's fun. I'll play some chop exercises. I'll play something just fast, just for funsies, as opposed to sitting there and working on my technique, or a limb independence pattern that I know how to do as opposed to the one I'm about to do that doesn't sound good yet. So those are all things you can do. You can also do stuff like, hey, instead of drumming today, because I just don't feel like I want to, I'm going to transcribe something. So I'm going to transcribe my favorite like tenor solo or snare solo or bass or drum kit part or whatever. Or I'm just going to analyze other people's playing and I'm going to try and learn from them. It can be extremely motivating to like just go and like look up like lock clips of people. If you're treating it as an analysis time, then that can be a way that you are not only learning, you can also get motivation from that analysis because you're like, oh wow, I really want to go practice. Like I want to play that thing that they're doing. Another way to do it is to try and prevent the lack of motivation by scheduling in time off. So like I'm only going to practice for 2 hours a day as opposed to for 10 hours, and like hold yourself to that. Don't get lost in the progression over time. Take breaks while you're practicing. So like every 30 minutes, take a 5-minute break. Or for me, what I personally like to do is every hour I take a 10-minute break. And so I'll go walk on the treadmill. I have my Steam Deck hooked up to the treadmill. Like I'll walk while playing a video game, and it's just getting the blood flowing, because otherwise I'll literally like just sit at my desk for 10 hours straight and be like, oh wow, I forgot to eat. And that's just like an extreme level of focus that will then lead to like a depressive episode where I don't want to practice or like create or whatever it is that I'm working on, because I just like I burn myself out. So think about like what led to some of these episodes, because sometimes they're out of your control. It's just like a seasonal thing. Something happened in life that just triggered it. But when it is something like, oh yeah, for the last month I've gotten like 6 hours of sleep as opposed to 8 hours of sleep, or for the last week I haven't been eating healthy, I've been like eating fast food and like not moving much. Like those things we can control, or at least attempt to control depending on your life situations, to try and prevent those depressive episodes from happening. So I like to say that I have chronic depression, but I'm not depressed. If I don't eat healthy, if I don't get enough sleep, like last night I got 4 hours of sleep, if that happens like multiple days in a row, then I could spiral into a depressive episode. Reflect on like what potentially could have led to this. A therapist can also help with like unpacking that. They can help you see things from an angle that you might not have noticed, where you're like, oh, I hadn't thought of it that way. I didn't realize that this might be impacting me negatively. So that can also help with that. But it's totally normal. Don't beat yourself up over it. Give yourself a break. Whatever you need to do to recharge your batteries, because resting is the sharpening of the axe for the mind. So you're just preparing yourself to be able to execute at a higher level later. Trying to increase motivation and whatnot, going with like the way that people design video games with like short, mid, and long-term goals, trying to get to the next level, and then you're like trying to get like a new like piece of gear for what you're working on, or you're trying to like be able to get it to like the max level, so that way you can go into like the end game areas and whatnot. So if you can set yourself short, mid, and long-term goals with your own performing, that can also sometimes help with that like external motivation to try and help pull or push you along to be able to reach those goals. So you're like, well, if I don't practice, it's not going to allow me to work towards that short-term goal that I've got by the end of the week to be able to play through blah, or that midterm goal to be able to do blah, or that long-term goal of like making this line or like doing well on this audition, etc. But that can also lead to anxiety, at least for somebody like myself who's more prone to anxiety. So sometimes focusing too much on the goal will make it so that I work to a point where I exhaust myself and then I'll get burned out. So it ends up taking what feels like a step forward, but then you end up taking like 2 steps back when you're doing that process if you focus too much on the goals. So that can be something that you can do that could potentially help you out with your motivation or lack of. Before I get to the next tip, I just want to say really quickly that you can find literally thousands of hours of free drumming play-alongs and drumming tips in the link at the top of the description, or by going into my home tab of YouTube. There's a point of diminishing returns, usually somewhere between like 2 to 4 hours, where like things start to like go down the hill. But as somebody who has practiced for like 12 plus hours a day every single day, like when doing all days for drum corps and whatnot, one of the ways to kind of prevent the diminishing returns is to just constantly do different things. So once you get to a point of diminishing returns on limb independence, cool. Now start to focus on technique. And then once you get to a point of diminishing returns on technique, now start to focus on like endurance. Another thing that you can do is to sequence what you practice with the hardest thing first, or the thing that requires the most focus and attention first, and then getting to like gradually to things that require less and less energy. But just understand that the point of diminishing returns changes each day, and it can also expand the more you work on it. So the more you train your brain to focus for an extended period of time, the less you'll have those diminishing returns of focus. You might start off and be like, I can focus really good for like 30 minutes. But a few months from now, again, months, not like days, you might be able to do it for like 40 minutes. And then eventually, like a year or two later, you might be able to really focus for like an hour or two and get a lot done. Expand your practice to think in chunks of weeks rather than in like hours, like in a day. Oh, Saturday, Sunday, I'm just going to do a ton of stuff on Saturday, a ton of stuff on Sunday, and then I'm not going to practice for the rest of the week. What you need is that time, that incubation period where your brain literally processes things in between your practice sessions. Then you'll actually make more progress because it gives the time for your brain to think about and do it more. And then the more you do it, the more your brain's going to be like, oh, this is something we need to pay attention to because these neurons are firing at the same time in the same sequence, etc. So this is clearly something that is of importance that we need to prioritize. And what it will do is go through a process known as myelination. Or myelination is where you have like the axons that like connect the different neurons, and it'll literally coat the axons and make it so that it's a thicker. It's like going from 3G to 5G or something, or from like dial up to like a broadband connection with the internet. The thickness of the axons makes it so that you have like better timing control of the neural firings, but also greater speed between the firings, and it makes it so that they work together more cohesively. In order to develop that, you have to do it over extended periods of times, like working on the same thing for like literally months. Usually it's about 50 hours or so before that process starts to happen. So if you're like working on like an ostinato pattern or something where you're like a bion or something, and you're working on this and you're like, cool, this is great. I put in 2 hours of time into it. Great. But really, in order to like push your brain to actually solidify that in your head, you got to spend about 50 hours like working on whatever it is you're working on. Does diet affect myelination? I don't know if it specifically affects myelination, but my guess is yes. When it comes to diet and whatnot, it will have a profound impact on your recovery process. So I have some like drumming lessons and drumming tips videos where I talk about the importance of recovery and to think about how you spend your time in between the practice sessions. If you are getting 8 hours of sleep versus 6 hours of sleep, you will be able to process things better. If you are eating healthier foods, your body will be able to recover faster and repair itself faster. Inflammation you get with the blood flowing into your arms or into your limbs when you're practicing, that is a recovery process where your blood is basically sending nutrients to that part of the body and going, hey, you're literally like working out with your arms when you're doing something like this, even though it's not lifting heavy weights, it's that repetitive motion. And so your body has to repair itself with that inflammation where it's moving the blood into it. And so you need good nutrients to help your body repair itself faster. The better nutrients, the better sleep, the more you like work out and take care of your body, the more of a profound impact that it's going to have on like your recovery process mentally. So you're able to focus more, which is why like in the gaming streams, you'll see me like drink like vegetable and fruit smoothies and things like that. It has protein in it, and like trying to be more intentional with the nutrients that I'm putting in my body, because it makes it so that I can be more focused throughout the day. It makes it so I can be more focused when I'm practicing. It makes it so that I can like have more energy to do like spend time with my wife at the end of the day, or have more energy when I'm working out, or more energy when I'm like creating all the drumming videos, etc. If you think of your body, your mind, your drumming as like this holistic thing where everything is interconnected, interwoven, and go through it that way, then your health, physically, mentally, drumming health, etc., all work together to make it so that you just feel better, whether you're drumming or the recovery process of drumming, or just outside of drumming and whatnot.